Digital photography made simple.
Hello and welcome back to Digital 1-to-1.
Hey, this lesson's about panoramas.
We're going to show you what a panoramic image is
And how to use them and shoot them more creatively.
Now, for starters, a panoramic image is a view that's greater than what our eye normally sees. Like we have here with the view of Los Angeles from the Hollywood Hills, you got a 180-degree view. Now that's a panoramic. Now to make a panoramic, we sweep our view with our camera, taking a series of images.
Many of today's cameras have what's called photo stitch or stitch assist. However, even though our camera may have that feature, all of our new cameras come with a CD, and on that CD is a software called Photo Stitch or Stitch Assist. Now we're going to need to download that in order to finalize our panoramic images on our computers. But if our cameras do not have a Stitch Assist or Photo Assist feature, we can still use a program that we can download from the internet. Just search for Stitch Assist programs, and then we can use our series of images that we shoot correctly for panoramas and put them in the program and create a great shot. Also, to let you know, some manufacturers today are now allowing us to finalize a panorama right in the camera where we don't have to do it later on with other software.
Now let's actually do our panoramic view of this great view of downtown Los Angeles.
And there's no smog, Santino?
Yeah, if we only had that Stitch program that took out the smog when we usually have it, that would be great. So let's take a peek after I take the series of shots, showing you how it works. A panoramic image is produced by taking a series of images shot in a sequence with a 30% overlap onto the next image. This allows the stitching program to make the best adjustments in order for each image to blend into one another smoothly, and creating a final image that appears like it was shot as one picture. Remember, shooting panoramic is fun stuff. You can shoot your panoramics horizontally or vertically to get that dramatic shot that you want. Now, in order for our images to overlap correctly, we should keep our cameras as level and steady as possible. Now, because we spread our view in a series of images, we want to make sure that we're keeping our line of sight from our horizon line here in a consistent manner, either vertical or horizontal, and 3 to 4 images should do the trick. Now, having a tripod will help us keeping our camera steady, especially when you have a long vista view. It will keep it nice and leveled. However, we suggest that you rotate your camera to create that overlap of 30%.
When we create panoramas, the programs available blend images differently. In Photoshop Elements and Photoshop, it's called Photo Merge, bridging together our series of images, where the pixels blend best, looking more like a jigsaw puzzle, and our final image becomes seamless. Afterwards, we can alter the colors and tones for a more dramatic look. In Photoshop itself, we can turn off the blending mode. This example was shot with an array of horizontal and vertical images, and the 30% rule still applies, rendering a more quilt-like series of images. When brought together, we see that our images have a less subtle blend, showing hard edges where they meet. And after the program brought our images together, we went ahead and added colors to each image layer, offering ourselves a more mosaic approach to our final panorama, and creating a more extraordinary landscape.
Now, any lens can be used when we create a panoramic image, but if there are people in the shot or a person as your subject matter, we suggest you start with a 50mm, to keep the proportions correct. Now, we don't like to go to extreme focal lengths. It doesn't mean you can't, but keeping your zoom somewhere in the middle on a point and shoot or a 50mm on a DSLR is a good starting point. Now, if we want to be a little more creative and vary the looks in our panoramic images, we might want to move to a feature on our cameras called AEL, Auto Exposure Lock, and we'll have to go into manual mode for these. The beauty of the AEL is that it allows us to keep the same exposure throughout all the images. Now, we have a video on AEL. Take a look at our video to get a little idea of how that feature works. The idea of the AEL feature is to lock in an exposure. Now, on DSLR cameras, that's just a manual setting. You keep the same exposure throughout your panned images. When we shoot this way, we'll want to search our whole view to look for that one thing that's really important to us. What is our main subject? That's what we're going to set our exposure on, because that's what we call the weight of importance of our panoramic image. We want to lock in our exposure with the AEL feature within that certain weight of importance. And by doing this, we are emphasizing that certain part of the subject of the panorama, or the weight of importance, because we're using the exposure to draw our attention to it. Our top image was shot using the auto mode on our camera, whereas the bottom, we use the manual mode and the AEL feature to lock in that one exposure.
Now, as you can see from our AEL image, it gives us more control over our exposure, emphasizing the area that we want and giving us that great looking image.
Hey, don't think of a panoramic image as only for something for landscapes. Try using this feature on all sorts of subjects. We encourage you to experiment with this idea. We hope you enjoyed this segment of Digital 1-to-1 today.
And when you're searching for great photographic tips, look to us here on Digital 1-to-1.